topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Draw me close to you, never let me go. I lay it all down again to hear you say that I'm your friend.
Good day. The Almighty Creator desires a deep personal relationship with you. My name is James Robertson. I'm a researcher, publisher, and teacher regarding the matters and truths of the Almighty Creator, whose true name is Yah, the eternally self-existing. I've been actively serving him since 1993, over 32 years. If you're not actively serving Yah, then by default you're serving Satan. My objective is to show you how you can make a big difference on earth and qualify for a position of high esteem in heaven for eternity. It's important to understand that as a believer, just being good is not the point. It's relationship with Yah that counts. Without this, you will be in a very unpleasant place in heaven with no way out. My aim is to show you how to get close to Father. If you're a good person without a clear relationship with Yah, then you're in a spiritual no man's land and you will not enter heaven when you die. The Creator has said regarding unbelievers, why would I want someone to spend eternity with me when they do not believe I exist? Yah is calling everybody on the planet to be involved and serve him and help him to have victory over Satan. Fundamentally, we each need to learn to see things on earth from Yah's perspective. Please visit my website at www.endtimeissueministries.org for more information, or email me on james@endtimeissueministries.org. I look forward to hearing from you. So today I'm going to talk about the essence of my message for the Jews. The overview: if you're a Jew, a Yahudi, particularly an Orthodox Jew, I urge you to listen to this broadcast to the end prayerfully, and then to pray the prayer at the end. This broadcast presents a headline review of most facets of my teachings as they apply first and foremost to Jews, to Yahudi. So I've increasingly come to understand, particularly through the events of the last couple of years, that number one, the Yehudi, the Jews, are loved by Father, that many of them are closer to Father than those of other religions, that they're more disciplined in terms of keeping the 10 words of the 10 commandments, and that for this reason they are hated by the satanic and demonic realm, and the satanic and demonic realm are doing everything in their power to destroy the Jews. We've had the 6 million killed in the Holocaust, something like 75 years ago. We've had the genocide by Hamas on the 7th of October, 23, on a high Sabbath. And I really want to stress that it's important for the Yehudi to hear this message. So the broadcast is based on the article 2021-0107, the essence of my message for the Jews, the Yehudi. I've now reached a point where Father has shown me that my understanding has matured and consolidated to a point where I can write an article summarizing all of the key points that relate to my message as my message applies to Yehudi. I've already written a similar article for Christians, and I've also written for Muslims and unbelievers. Nearly all of my writings are presented on the website www.endtimeissueministries.org, including a set of PDF volumes. For direct words from the Almighty to myself, see www.endtimeissueministries.org, important insights. So there's a big piece here. The Yehudi have a lot of truth. And if you are a Yehudi and you're listening to me, I want you to know that I acknowledge that. At the same time, I want to submit for your consideration that you don't have all truth. That there's some important truths that I'm going to share in this broadcast and in the subsequent components of this broadcast over the next couple of weeks that it's really important for you to be aware of. In summary, this broadcast presents a headline review of most facets of my teachings as they apply first and foremost to Yehudi. I stress that I'm not highly knowledgeable with regard to Judaism. What follows is my best attempt based on my limited knowledge, and I ask you for grace to the extent that some of what I write may not be entirely technically correct. Having said that, I think I've got the basics right. And as I said a minute ago, many of the Yehudei are being diligent in keeping most of the 10 Commandments. They're slipping on some. They bring a level of righteousness and right thinking to the world that would be very, very problematic to lose. Christianity has its roots in Judaism. Yahushua was a Yehudi, Jesus. So the roots of Christianity, as much as it's in error and corrupt in many ways, is in Judaism. And if you ignore that, if you try and downplay Christianity's roots, you really are missing the point, and we'll touch on that more in the rest of this broadcast and in the days to follow. So my first point, and this is really important. We exist to be friends of the Creator directly and not through a rabbi. There's fundamentally only one reason that human beings, this planet, the solar system, this universe exist. And that is because the Almighty Creator who has always existed, was lonely and wanted companions, and specifically friends. Friend of the Creator is the highest achievement in this life, and anything short of that is a misfire, particularly if you've not even attempted to achieve this status with Him. This means that you talk to Him constantly, you know His true name, which is Yah, the eternally self-existing, and you use it exclusively. He talks to you constantly. You know His plans and participate in them. You know His goals and work towards them. You pray His will into existence on earth in close consultation with Him, and so forth. Now, there's a big piece here. I'm not, on the one hand, saying rabbis are not valuable. There are many rabbis who have a relatively close relationship with Yah. In fact, a few years ago when I was discussing it with Father, he said to me that one of the people who was amongst the three who were closest to him on earth was a rabbi in Jerusalem. And having said that, Yah wants a relationship with you. He doesn't want a relationship with your rabbi and then you have a relationship with the rabbi. He wants you to go directly to him, which means that you need to put more effort into your relationship with Yah and less effort into your relationship with your rabbi. And I'm not being rabidly anti-rabbi. I'm just saying there is a better way. There is a higher road, and that is direct personal relationship between you and Yah. If you qualify as a friend at the end of your life, then you qualify to sit on a very high throne in heaven with a glorious resurrected body, great authority, great prestige, and great power. One of the key errors of Judaism, as with Christianity and Islam and other religions, is that individual believers have abdicated their responsibility to have a personal relationship with the Almighty Creator in favor of a relationship with a rabbi or an imam or a priest or a pastor or whatever, who is expected to have some level of relationship. This was valid up to the time of Yahushua, as I will discuss shortly, but it became invalid in light of Yeshua's sacrifice on the stake around 2,000 years ago. And before you come at me as a Yehudi, but Jesus is not God, etc., you don't have to convince me. Jesus is not God. Yeshua is not Yah. He is not the creator. He's a man. So I just want to put that before you, because otherwise it becomes a blocker. And there's a lot of error around this thing that Christians believe that Jesus is God. It's one of the biggest errors of Christianity. And it's one of the biggest reasons why Yehudi are not able to embrace the broader picture, which I'm in the process of sharing with you. And I encourage you just to listen right the way to the end. Listen for the next couple of weeks and then form an opinion as to what I'm saying, because I truly believe that if you're a Yehudi, you're a step up the ladder, and I'm just going to help you another step up the ladder if you listen to me. So the true name of the Almighty Creator is Yah, the eternally self-existing, and He desires us to use that name. The name Yah occurs over 10,600 times in the Hebrew books of the assembly that's commonly referred to as the Bible. It's frequently rendered by Jews as Adonai, when in fact the Hebrew is YHWH, Yahweh, which correctly renders Yahweh or Yahweh, when accurately translated, is the Yah, the eternally self-existing, such that the true essential name of the Almighty Creator is Yah. He loves it when we use that name with appropriate esteem. In fact, He said to me, "If you love me, then call me by my true name." He hates it when people hide His true name with Hashem, G_D, God, etc. So as a Yehudi, there is a common practice to say that because of the third commandment, "Thou shalt not take the name of Yah, the eternally self-existing, in vain," they don't use the name at all, or they reserve the name for senior rabbis to use on key dates, etc. When I first became aware of Yahweh in 2000, I got on my knees before Him and I said, "Father, is this important?" And His answer to me, and it's to you as well today, "James, how would you like it if your family called you by the name of your worst enemy," which is what the Lord amounts to. It's a translation of Baal, effectively. I've used Yahweh and then Yahweh and then Yah ever since, so for 26 years. And I know it's pleasing to Him. So I encourage you to let go of your Yehudi tradition of saying, "I won't utter the name of the Almighty." It's His name. He values it when you use it. Then Orthodox Judaism has been moderately faithful. The Orthodox Judaic faith has been faithful in complying with the Asara Ha-Debrota, the 10 words or 10 commandments, to a large extreme. It has become very legalistic and for the most part has lost true relationship with the Creator, which is the most important things. There are Yehudi who have relationships with the Creator. And as I said earlier, one of the people on the planet closest to the Creator is a rabbi in Jerusalem, at Jerusalem. So the Yehudi have the first commandment, Yah, the eternally self-existing, your mighty one is one mighty one, you shall have no other mighty ones before. You've got that. Big positive as far as He's concerned. Number 2, you're a little bit shaky. No idols. You've made an idol of the Torah. It's just a set of writings. They're useful reference. They're not the word of Yah. and you should take them off the pedestal. And that belief opens the door for judgment to some extent. The third commandment, you should not take the name of Yah, the eternally self-existing, your mighty one, in vain. As I said just now, there's a tendency amongst the Yehudai to use Hashem and G_D and God and what have you, instead of Yah and Yahweh and Yahuwah. And that's not pleasing to him. Particularly Hashem, the name. How would you like it if somebody called you the name? He doesn't like it. He doesn't approve. Then the man commonly called by Christians Jesus was a Jew, a Yahudi. The man Christians called Jesus was a Yehudi, a Jew, and 100% human. His true name was Yahushua, meaning Yah is salvation. And he entered into a covenant to fulfill the covenant made by Moshe, Moses, in a very specific way that is discussed in more detail later in this broadcast. Again, this is a point that is lost by most Christians. The New Testament, so-called, the source documents are largely Greek because the Hebrew source documents had largely been destroyed many, many years ago. And somehow people think it's all right to use the name Jesus, where Jesus means blessed by Zeus, and Zeus is a demonic mastermind, a demonic principality power. Jesus is an abominable name. Don't use it. If you want to talk about him as Yahushua, incorrectly translated in the Old Testament as Joshua, meaning Yah is salvation. Again, calling him Jesus is an insult. And I'll talk a bit more about the fact that he's a man, not Yah, in a minute. And then I want to make a point. True Jews, true Christians, true Muslims, true whatever, are all attempting to serve the Creator in some shape or form. And I want to stress true. There are a whole lot who aren't, but there are a modicum in each group who are making a real effort to have a relationship and to serve Yah and be obedient. And proportionately, there are more Yehudi than any other group. So they're all attempting to serve the Creator in their own ways, and all are in serious error in their own ways. A small percentage of all those in each of these three religions and a few in other religions are in some level of relationship with the Creator. The rest are no better than unbelievers. See the article on the website, Demographics of the Kingdom, which is discussed in more detail later in this broadcast. So, folks, I'm focusing on the Yehudi. And as I said earlier, as a group, there are only about 15 million Yehudi on the planet. They've been eradicated repeatedly. And now a large proportion of them are in Israel. And they've got some fundamental truths. And they've got some sin. So worshipping the Torah is a sin that allows the forces of darkness to get judgment. You're pretty good about keeping the Sabbaths. In fact, you are better at keeping the Sabbaths than anybody else. And that counts in your favor. It's a big plus with Yah because it's the biggest single sacrifice that you can give him, the biggest gift you can give him, to observe those Sabbaths and do no secular work and put business, etc. aside. Then the covenant of Moshe was invalid from the time that the Aaron Habareth, the Ark of the Covenant, went missing when Babylon invaded Jerusalem around 597 BC. It's vital to recognize that from the time that the Aaron Habareth, the Ark of the Covenant, was hidden away at the time that Babylon invaded Jerusalem in 597 BC and destroyed the temple, the priesthood became illegitimate. There was no way that the high priest could be ordained by sprinkling blood on the mercy seat. And there was no longer an offering for atonement of sin because there was no longer possible to place the blood of the sacrifice on the caperet. Now, what I'm going to say now is very little known. Yeshua of Nazareth met the requirement by his blood flowing onto the caperet and provided a new covenant. More details later on this, and there's a whole article, The Miracle of the Death of Yahushua, on the website. The ministry of the rabbis today is also illegitimate. They have zero mandate to represent Father, just as the Christian pastors and priests and Muslim imams have no mandate. So the big piece here is that Jeremiah, and a group of sanctified men before Babylon overran Jerusalem, took the Ark of the Covenant, the Aron Habereth, and the rest of the temple furniture down into tunnels under the temple and carried it about a kilometer to outside the walls of Jerusalem. And there they hid them in a cave and blocked up the cave. And in about 1962, Yah showed a man by the name of Ron Wyatt where the Ark of the Covenant was hidden, where the Aron Habereth was hidden. He dug and he dug and he dug and he found it. And he found that it was under the execution site where Yahushua had died. And he found that Yahushua's blood had flowed down an earthquake crack onto the caperet, thereby inducting a new high priest, a new offering for sin, and a new covenant. And unless you have that information, you can't really understand Yahushua and what he did, and you can't fully understand that he's a fulfillment of Moshe. One of the things that he said is that Moshe spoke of me, and that's what he's speaking about. In the Torah, the Nevim, the Mishli, the Tehillim are reasonably accurate history books. That's it, no more. The books referred to as the Torah, the Nevim, the Tehillim, and the Mishli are reasonably reliable historical texts with some level of inspiration in places, particularly in Mishli. But they are merely books, and it is wrong to esteem them and, in effect, worship them, particularly the Torah, as the Yehudi do. The Talmud contains some inspired writing and a lot of general human interpretation, some of which is gross error. As a general principle, neither the Talmud nor the 613 mitzvot are relevant to a deep relationship with the Almighty Creator. My journey with Him, the Almighty, has kept me from studying either of these. Folks, this is a key point. Yah is not looking for you to spend hours every day, every week, every month, every year studying Torah or whatever. He wants you to have a relationship with him. He wants you to talk to him, not to the book, not to the rabbi. And then legalism, as in adherence to the mitzvot and all the extensions of this, is futile and it's not pleasing to the Creator. We were created to be friends of the Creator and to fellowship with him, not to obey endless, meaningless rules and minutiae. It's not pleasing to Father Yah when people slavishly obey minutiae and debate and argue over the exact meanings and legalities of such legalistic clauses. Father wants to enjoy life with you, not have you slavishly follow meaningless niceties. He really does not care how you wash your hands or if you wash your hands or whatever, or if you have a kippah. These are all layers of stuff that human beings have put in place because they don't hear Yah clearly, they don't talk to Yah, they don't have a relationship with Yah, they are not his friends, and so they resort to legalism. So going back to the 10 words, the 10 commandments, are you very good about keeping the Sabbath? You're pretty good about honoring parents, much better than most. You're fairly good at adhering to no murder. You've got a better understanding of adultery and no adultery, but a lot of people don't keep that very well. Got a fair revelation of not lying and bearing false witness, and a moderate revelation of not coveting. So overall, you're doing better than the vast majority of Christians and Muslims and the rest of the world. And the satanic and the satanic and demonic realm hate you and fear you as a result. So let's look at the essence of my message for the Yehudi. We were created to have a deep personal relationship with the Almighty Creator, as I've already talked about. We were created to have a deep personal relationship with Him. If you do not have such a relationship, you're missing the only reason you exist. It's available to every human being today, irrespective of religion, race, color, creed, denomination, education, wealth, gender, etc. It's no longer necessary to go through a human intermediary such as a rabbi, priest, pastor, imam, etc. This changed at the point that the man Yahushua died and ushered in a covenant to fulfill the covenant of Moshe, which had become inoperable and void. Folks, when this is going to be a bit painful, but when the Yehuda called for the death of Yahushua, who was their anointed one, their Messiah, and said, "Let his blood be upon us and upon our children," they broke the covenant of Moshe. They violated it. And as much as you might want to believe that you're still the chosen people, I'm afraid to tell you, everybody else has now got an opportunity to go there. Yah said, "You know what? I've had enough. I'm going to the Gentiles, to the rest." And there's a point to remember there, that all the people in Europe, northern India, to an extent the tribes in Americas, are all descended from the 10 tribes who went into exile, and some of the people from Yehuda who went into exile. And because of wild oats and what have you, I'm a descendant of Moshe, Moses, through Gershom. I'm a Levite. Through my father, through Scotland, and so forth. Judaism has blessed the world, but it's also been hated because of this. Significant number of committed Jewish believers have blessed the world and helped particularly Western civilization to prosper and at some level draw close to the Creator. Because of this, the forces of darkness, the satanic and demonic realm, hate the Jews and fear the Jews, and have gone to great lengths to spread lies about them and persecute them, such as the Holocaust, where World War II ended up as a war between Christians. Also the genocide by Hamas on October the 7th, 23. At the same time, Yehudi espouse a number of beliefs that are sin and give the force of darkness the legal right to attack. So there's a principle that if you're free of sin, forces of darkness can't touch you. So the fact that Yehuda keep getting killed says there's something wrong, and the something wrong is you worshipping the Torah. And some other bits and pieces, but the big one you're getting wrong is you worshipping the Torah. And then something like 20% of all the Nobel Prizes have been awarded to Yehudi, who are about 0.2% of the world's population. A disproportionate number of billionaires are Yehudi. Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook fame is a Yehudi. So the Yehudi have been blessed because of They claim the blessings of Abraham. They claim the blessings of Israel, Yaakov, and so forth. And they claim relationship and calling to Yah. The forces of darkness is really all out trying to kill you. Then Yeshua was a Yehudi. The man Christians call Jesus Christ was a Yehudi, a resident of Judah, Yehudah, and therefore a Hebrew. He spoke Hebrew or Aramaic and lived in a Hebrew society. See Mattiyahu incorrectly, Matthew chapter 1 in the Christian Bible. The genealogy of Yahushua, Ruth 4:18 to 22, Luke 3:23 to 38 are other references. I'm going to read from part of Mattiyahu, starting at verse 1. The book of the genealogy of Yahushua, anointed of Yah, not Jesus Christ, son of David, son of Abraham. Abraham brought forth Yitzhak, and Yitzhak brought forth Jacob, and Jacob brought forth Yehuda and his brothers. And Yehuda brought forth Peretz and Zerah by Tamar, and Peretz brought forth Hetzron, and Hetzron brought forth Ram. And so it carries on. That was verse 3. Jumping to verse 15, and Elihud brought forth Eleazar, and Eleazar brought forth Matan, and Matan brought forth Jacob, and Jacob brought forth Joseph, the husband of Miriam, of whom was born Yahushua, who is called anointed of Yah. So all the generations from Abraham to David were 14 generations, and from David until the exile to Babel were 14 generations, and from the exile to Babel until the anointed one were 14 generations. So what I really want you to notice is Yahushua is fundamentally a Yehudi. And in the birth of Yahushua, the anointed of Yah, Mattiyahu 1:18 and on. But the birth of Yahushua, anointed of Yah, was as follows. After his mother Miriam was engaged to Joseph, and before they came together, she was found to be pregnant from the set-apart spirit. And Joseph, her husband, being righteous and not wishing to make a show of her, had in mind to put her away secretly. But while he thought about this, see, a messenger of Yah appeared to him in a dream, saying, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Miriam as your wife, for that which is in her was brought forth from the set-apart spirit, the Holy Spirit. And she shall give birth to a son, and you shall call his name Yahushua, for he shall save his people from their sins. And all this came to be in order to fulfill what was spoken by Yahweh through the prophet, saying, see, an Alma, or a virgin, shall conceive, and she shall give birth to a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which translated means El with us. Now, it's really important to understand, folks, the creative miracle that formed Yeshua in the fallopian tubes of Mary, where an egg was fertilized, an ovum, is much less of a miracle than the creation of Chava, Eve, from the rib of Adam, and the creation of Adam and Lilith from the dust of the earth. This whole Christian thing about sex had, Yah had sex, or God had sex with Miriam, he overshadowed Miriam and said, it's silly, it's nonsense, you know it's silly, it turns you off and it turns you away from Yahushua. Please don't let it. Then Mattiyahu 1:24, and Yosef, waking from his sleep, did as the messenger of Yah commanded him, and he took his wife. But he knew her not until she gave birth to her son, the firstborn, and called his name Yahushua. The verses that I've read are taken from a version of the Christian Bible called The Scriptures by the Institute of Christian Scripture Research, which has reverted as far as possible to the Hebrew. Note that the genealogy above closely follows the Nevi'im, confirming that Yeshua was the fulfillment of the prophetic words regarding a coming anointed one, so-called Messiah. So Yeshua was born in Bethlehem, in the land of Yehuda, and was therefore a Yehudi. Note that the word Jew is an anglicization of the word Yehudi. So therefore Yahushua was a Jew, and his family and his society were all Jews. Everything that Yahushua did his entire life was with and for the Yehudi, not anyone else. And the Yehudi missed it. They didn't get it. And the leaders called for his death. Some of them got it, let me be clear. Some of them got it, some followed him. But a lot didn't. And when the rubber hit the road, they called for him to be put to death. Yahushua was not Greek, and therefore his name cannot have been Jesus Isis. His name in Hebrew is Yahushua, incorrectly Joshua, meaning Yah is salvation, where Yah is the true name of the Almighty Creator. Note also that the occupation forces in Yehuda were Romans and not Greeks. There is no reason why Yahushua, his family, and his community would speak or write Greek. Therefore, nearly all the original writings on which the so-called New Testament are based were written in Hebrew and translated into Greek, sometimes with serious translation errors. This gives rise to all sorts of corrections, some of which will be discussed further in this article. Note that in Matthew 27:46, Yahushua, when he died, Yahushua cried out in Aramaic, which is vernacular Hebrew, and about the 9th hour, Yahushua cried out with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is, my beloved mighty one, incorrectly God, my beloved mighty one, why have you forsaken me? Clearly, that was his home language. It was the language that he used in his moment of greatest torment. Note that there's a suggestion that Eli actually means my darling mighty one, or even just my darling, which is a measure of how close Yahushua was to the Creator. Folks, I really want you as a Yehudi to understand my heart here. Yahushua was the anointed one who was to come as foretold by Daniel and others. Your forefathers missed it. It's water under the bridge. Don't reject him anymore, and do not reject him because of the lies that the Christians teach. Then correction of names. In particular, at this point, I'd like to offer a number of corrections with regard to names that are commonly used. These corrections are made within the context of the reality that belief in the Creator and belief through Yahushua, not belief in Yahushua, are represented to a degree is Christianity, and Christianity is fundamentally a Hebrew religion, although it's full of error and it's gone off into Roman and Latin and Greek and but I mean, you talk about the errors of Christianity, but you miss the truths of Christianity. In particular, it's not possible to fully understand the so-called New Testament in the Bible without first understanding the culture and history that is presented in the so-called Old Testament. Fundamentally, Yahushua, Jesus, was an Old Testament prophet, an Old Testament spokesman. The New Covenant only came into existence when he died. There's a big thing there that Christians make out that Jesus was God and that he was magical and all the things that he did were magic because he was God. No, they were done because he was anointed with the Spirit of Yah, and there was nothing that Yahushua did apart from his death and living without sin that the spokesman, the prophets before him, had not already done. There's an article on the website, and I broadcast a few weeks ago, Can you prove that Jesus is God, which comprehensively rebuts the argument that Yeshua is Yah. In this context, it's important to understand that modern-day Yehudi are also descended from these roots, and that the reason that so many people hate Yehudi is because at some level they've been more faithful with the matters of the Creator than most, and therefore they're a threat to the satanic and demonic realm, which therefore triggers irrational and ill-informed hatred of Jews. It's also important to realize that at the time that the Protestant Bible was first translated into English, there was a large amount of wrong tradition and also intense persecution, which resulted in the translators making compromises which have persisted to this day in the vast majority of Christian Bible translations. The following points should be viewed with this in mind. So I'm going to start today and then we'll carry on next week. So Yah, the eternally self-existing, incorrectly the Lord, frequently with Christians, the capitalized Lord in capital letters. The phrase Yah, the eternally self-existing, occurs in the so-called Old Testament nearly 7,000 times, represented as the Lord, capital letters. This phrase in Hebrew is Yahweh or Yahweh, depending on preference. It's the name of the Almighty Creator of the heavens and the earth, and his true fundamental name is Yah. If you do not know this name and use it, you will never draw particularly close to him. How do you form a relationship with someone when you do not know their name or do not use it? Note that the essential name of the Almighty, Yah, occurs over 10,600 times in the Old Testament. It is embedded in something like 150 different names in the Hebrew writings, like Yahushua, incorrectly translated Joshua, Yirmiyahu, incorrectly translated Jeremiah, and so forth. Elijah, incorrectly translated Elijah, meaning Yah is my beloved mighty one. So I'm going to continue this next Friday. I'd like to ask you, what is the state of your relationship with the Almighty Creator? I'd like to ask you to critically examine where you are relative to him today. Do you talk to him constantly throughout the day and allow him to lead you in every possible way? Do you worship him at every opportunity? Have you clearly and unambiguously heard him call you friend? If not, you're failing in your life purpose and you'll be bitterly disappointed when you die. If you've now come to belief, please pray along the following lines. Father, Yah, I come to you in the name of Yahushua. I now believe that you exist. I confess my sin of unbelief and repent of my unbelief and ask you to forgive my sin. I now commit my life to you and ask you to take me by the hand and lead me into deep relationship with you. I ask you to fill me with your spirit and to change me and help me to become the person you want me to become. I ask you to help me find people who can help me and help me find books, websites, articles, and other resources that will help me. I ask you to show me what I can do to actively serve you and lead others to deep personal relationship with you. I thank you for saving me. There's a period of 8 days from sincerely coming to belief for the first time, during which there is extreme grace to help you. See the article Critical Actions on First Belief for actions you should take immediately. Drop me an email at james@endtimeissueministries.org so I can help you, pray with you, pray for you, counsel you, etc. I would love to hear from you. It really does my heart good to get your emails, so please don't hold back. And if you are a Yehudi who's listening to me, I encourage you to pray that prayer. I want to stress, I am not saying that Jesus is God. I'm saying categorically he is not. There are certain things that are blockers for you to come to the relationship with Yah that I'm talking about. I'm not a Christian. Let me be absolutely clear. I'm a servant of the Most High Creator of the heavens and earth, Yah, the eternally self-existing. I'm asking you to embrace what I'm sharing, which is an embellishment and enhancement of your Yahudi faith. I am not asking you to abandon being a Yehudi. In closing, thank you for listening. Please send me your questions to james@endtimeissueministries.org. Please email me to join the mailing list at james@endtimeissueministries.org. If you decide to draw close to the Almighty, please let me know, and I'll connect with you by Zoom, Teams, email, LinkedIn, Facebook, WhatsApp, or telephone so that I can help you with your journey. I hope to connect with you again next week when I will continue to explore how to become a friend of the Creator. Work with me to make a way for Yahushua to return in victory at the end of the millennium and make his enemies his footstool. I say again, please email me. I'd love to answer your questions. We can get on Zoom and I can really work through your concerns and your questions with me. Yah today wants everyone to become his friend. It doesn't matter whether you're a Yehudi or a Christian or a Muslim or a Satanist or a Methodist or a whatever, rich or poor, tall or fat, short, thin or fat, whatever. He wants you to become his friend, African, Asian, Indian, American, whatever. He'll meet you wherever you are. Just pray to him and say, Father, James says I can become your friend. I want to become your friend. Please help me. You go to the website, hover the cursor over the word home at the top, just to the right of the word home. There's a little white triangle. Hover over that. You'll get a drop down with 4 articles, one of which is 7 components of drawing close to you. You can read that online, or you can download it as a PDF or a Microsoft DocX and print it out. Study that, put it into practice, and I have a high level of confidence that over a couple of years you will get to a close relationship with Father. So I'm out of time. For those of you who've been walking with me for a while, I'm going to say good night. Enjoy your weekend and your week. For those who are new on this channel, please hold on. I've got something I want to share with you. In closing, who am I? James Robertson. I have a doctorate in engineering and I'm a retired military commander. I now work as a management consultant. I have over 32 years' experience of actively seeking to draw close to the Almighty, following a dramatic encounter with him on the 12th of March 1993 when he spoke to me audibly in a locked room, and I knew for certain he was real. In learning about Father, I applied my deep-seated aversion to failure born out of an accident in early childhood, coupled to my engineering and military training of rigor and preventing failure, to my seeking of knowledge about Father. This journey led to numerous supernatural experiences, prayers answered, and clear communication with the Creator that forms the basis for what I teach in these programs. See the video Why Seek Relationship for an overview of what I believe. Please visit my website at www.endtimemissionministries.org. The ETI version of the Bible with corrections of translation errors is on the ETI Bible version page. For recordings of nearly all of the teachings broadcast so far, go to www.relationshipwithcreatorradio.com or search on Google for Relationship with Creator Radio. Transcripts are on the Transcripts of Broadcast page. Books with teachings from 1998 until May 2019 are on the Books for Printing page. I publish regular email articles. Email me on james@endtimemissionministries.org to be added to the list or to seek counsel or prayer or give me feedback. Visit the website and use the article keyword cloud, table of contents, article search, and Google search to locate the information you're looking for. Folks, that's it. I'm out of time. Please email me. I look forward to hearing from you, and I look forward to seeing you next Friday.
Father, I come to you, lifting up my hands. By your grace I stand, just because you love me. I know your favor.
Are you truly aware of how my message applies to the Yehudim, incorrectly the Jews? Please listen to my broadcast on w4cy.com internet radio or talk4tv.com internet TV to understand why I say this. My name is Dr. James Robertson, and I've been walking closely with the Almighty Creator since 1993. Visit my website at www.endtimemissionministries.org for a lot of information about the matters of the Almighty. For back issues of broadcast, please visit www.relationshipwithcreatorradio.com or email me on james@endtimemissionministries.org to find out more. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much.